Hey Manna fam, welcome back. This week we're going through what it means to put on the full armor of God by looking at Ephesians chapter 6, verses 10 through 17. Yesterday we talked about what it means to put on the belt of truth and the breastplate of righteousness. Today we find ourselves with verse 15. So if you want to go and open your Bibles, turn to chapter 6, trace that finger all the way down to verse 15, and it says, "And with your feet fitted with the readiness that comes from the gospel of peace." Like I said, yesterday we talked about the belt of truth and the breastplate of righteousness. Two words I want us to focus on here today in verse 15 have to do with being prepared and evangelism. So that first word, the one that has to do with being prepared, is hypodesemenoi. It's a Greek word meaning to shod. So when Paul's talking about having your feet ready, he means doing what's necessary, the necessary preparations and practice, so that when the time comes, you're not scrambling to get ready to share the gospel, you already are. Similarly, soldiers, when they had their shoes or their, today, the modern equivalent would be combat boots, any infantry soldier would tell you that the first time to be wearing your boots should not be when you're in a combat situation. You need to have broken those shoes in months in advance with little distances and then increasingly longer distances in more complex environments. And similarly, the first time you open a Bible and try to search for verses, if you're faced with an opportunity for evangelism, shouldn't be when you're in the moment. You need to have prepared beforehand. 1 Peter 3 talks about that. And the second word that I want us to understand is the word for gospel, which is evangeleo. Literally translated, it means good news. We should be living lives that are filled with the good news. In other words, our actions should reflect the good news of Jesus. But then we also shouldn't be afraid, but should be courageous and boldly willing to share the good news of the gospel whenever and wherever and with whomever we have the opportunity. That's what this means. It's God's call for us to advance His kingdom. That's offensive warfare. That means we should be going places, engaging with people. So my question for you today is, are you ready? If God called you to a place that needed a passport, do you have one? I'll tell you what, we have people standing by right now waiting to get on a missions trip because they don't have their passport yet. So there's other people who might apply who might be able to cut in front of them. If you've been called to witness to someone that, say, was 5 miles away, could you get there right now if you needed to? If someone asked you to articulate the difference between, who is a Christ follower, who's a believer, and who's not, would you be able to do it succinctly and convincingly? I think these are all elements of making sure that we're prepared to spread the good news, the evangeleo of the gospel. So that's what it means to have your feet prepared, shod, fitted with the gospel of peace. Come back tomorrow as we delve into what it means to take up effectively the shield of faith. See you then.